Good evening, everybody. Captain Mike here, and I am here tonight doing a solo recording to fill in a couple of blanks between what got left behind, what fell out of the last presentation. And so in the airline world, we call this an extra section. We have our regularly scheduled flights between 2 points, and sometimes we have to just run another flight because so many people showed up. And we call this extra flight an extra section. So this is going to be the GNS 320, sort of an add-on section after the 301 segment that we recorded last time. You may recall that we lost a little bit of the video from that last one when Brian's son got on the internet and started playing some games. And the good news is he won that round of Call of Duty, so you'll be happy to know that. But we did lose that couple of minutes, and so I thought I'd fill in that little gap with some extra stuff here. We're going to cover most of what was lost in that little segment, and if you play your cards right, we might just play along an extra little portion on interfacing the Garmin 530 and 430 with an iPad running ForeFlight through the FlightStream 210. So we'll see if we can get to that. Brian did sign me off for an unsupervised solo, so if this goes okay, we might do it on some other smaller subjects as well. He did give me a couple of limitations on this unsupervised solo, though. He told me to keep it under 30 minutes, and I'm just allowed to talk about the flight plan catalog, although I might sneak in this other thing on the transfer. He also gave me a maximum demonstrated crosswind component of 5 knots, so hopefully the wind doesn't pick up too much and we don't get outside of that. So as always, this video and all the others are posted on the YouTube channel, so you can search for my name and find those. And I'll ask you that if you like them, if you subscribe to that channel, then you will be automatically notified when new content is added. And if you like the videos on there, just click the little thumb up button, and that will allow other people to find it as well. So keep those cards and letters coming. You can respond either on that YouTube channel, or you can send me an email at captainmikegps@gmail.com, and I'll answer all those questions as much as I can. Brian and I are working on trying to find a schedule to coordinate our schedule at a time when we can do another full-on live webinar with everybody, but we just haven't been able to make that work yet. So stand by and we're going to get that. So tonight, let's dive into this flight plan feature. So first, let me share the correct screen here and we'll get it going. So this is our flight simulator we've been using, the Garmin simulator for the 430 and 530. It's available in the links that are shared on Brian's website, and we'll share that information back towards the end. I'll show you where those links are. So this simulator at the moment is on the ground at Fullerton Airport. That's my home airport. And when we were working with some of this flight plan details on the last segment, we were working on a flight plan from Fullerton over to Camarillo, where Brian is based, and there's a great restaurant there that does an amazing tri-tip barbecues on Wednesdays and Saturdays. So if you ever get a chance and have plenty of time to wait in line for those sandwiches and salads, it's amazing. So onto the flight plan feature. First thing, we're in this nav mode 1. This is where on nav page 2 rather. And this is where the navigator will end up after it's completed all of its pre-start checks and everything's all good and it's acquired the satellites. It lands you on this page with the airport and shows you your position. And to get into the flight plan mode, you just push the flight plan button, push it again to come back out. So you'll notice in this flight plan mode on this simulator, we have 2 pages, page 1 and page 2. And page 1 is the active flight plan, and page 2 is the flight plan catalog. So on the last program, mostly we talked about the active flight plan, and I was just getting into the catalog issues, and that's when we lost a few minutes of the recording, and that's why we're doing this. So that's where I'm going to spend most of my time on today. So we'll push into the flight plan mode here, and we're going to start entering a flight plan. Just push this cursor button on the right-hand little knob, and you start getting that big, bright, blinking cursor. We have to enter a little bit of a flight plan to get started. So we're going to just type in from the Fullerton Airport I'm going to do a real simple one here just for the demonstration. Fullerton directly to Camarillo. And if you remember the last time and looking at some of the maps, clearly that's not a route that you can actually fly due to all the airspace and some terrain and other issues along the way. But it works just for our demonstration purposes. So we start with the Fullerton Airport. Come on down to the next line and we're going to type in Camarillo Airport. Okay, CMA. And presto, we have an active flight plan now from Fullerton to Camarillo. And if we push this flight plan button again, we come back to the map and you can see we've got our magenta line that's going to show this course nonstop. And you can see it goes right by LAX here. Downtown Los Angeles is right above that. Clearly, we're not going to get to fly this just as it is. And we talked a lot about that in the last episode. So, but for tonight or for this episode, what I just want to talk about is how to deal with this in the context of saving the flight plan and then recalling a flight plan later. And we'll talk about a few other features along the way as well. So the first thing is on the flight plan here, if we want to save this flight plan, just push the menu button and that's going to bring up our context sensitive menu. And you can see the top item on that list there that's accessible to us is the copy the flight plan. So just press enter on that. It offers us to save it into the flight plan slot 1. And this is because I have no flight plan stored right now. So it's going to start in the lowest numbered flight plan slot, which is slot number 1. So yep, that's okay. We'll save it right there. Now, as far as we're looking right now, nothing happened. We still have our active flight plan, still the same points. We do have a flashing yellow message light here. So let's see. Okay, we get our set the course to 278. It wants us to do that because whenever we have an active course, it wants our course pointer to be matching up with that. And do not use for navigation. Of course, we're sitting in my comfortable chair in the office. I can't use that for navigation. So we have saved that flight plan. And the way we know that is we push that flight plan button again. We come to the active flight plan on page 1 of this flight plan chapter. We're going to page over to page 2, and now we have a flight plan catalog with this flight plan saved. So we've only used 1 slot. We have 18 remaining. So if you're one of the smarter ones, you've probably figured out that you only have the opportunity to save 19 different flight plans in the navigator. So not a whole lot of space. And this is where it's kind of handy to have ForeFlight or Garmin Pilot or something that you can use to work your flight plans. And then you don't need so many of these catalog options. So we've got our flight plan created. It's saved into catalog. It's also in our active flight plan. And this is what we're navigating with right now. Let's delete this active flight plan. So we can come down here. We see delete the flight plan. And if we say, yes, we want to do that, all waypoints in the flight plan, yes or no. Now we see that our active flight plan is empty. If we look back over here to the page 2, you'll see, hey, look, we still have a stored flight plan. So that only affected the active flight plan, not the stored ones. So what we're going to do now is kind of manipulate this stored one just a little bit. But first we need to reactivate it. So the way you activate a flight plan that's stored in the catalog is you come over here to your flight plan page 2. We're going to give ourselves a cursor and highlight this flight plan. And then you push the menu button and the top item again in this context sensitive menu is activate flight plan. So sure, let's activate that flight plan. Now it brings us back to the active flight plan page. We can see it up here at the top. It's called the active flight plan. We see that our flight plan indicator, page indicator here has gone back to page 1. And we see that the navigator is going to navigate us along this line from Fullerton directly to Camarillo. So there you go. If you have a destination that you fly to quite frequently, it's a great idea to save that in your flight plan catalog, and then it's there ready to be picked up at any time. So let's say we've flown up to lunch there, got together with Brian, had a nice lunch at the Waypoint Cafe, and it's time to come home. Now what do? We can go to the flight plan catalog here, and in our active flight plan, there's a couple of different ways to do it, but this one's fairly easy. Now press the menu button, and we can come down here and highlight invert flight plan. That just means swap it around the other way. So you can see now we swapped Camarillo as the first waypoint, Fullerton is the last waypoint, and it's the reciprocal course. And if we were to waypoint to turn this thing around here in 098, and we're good to go. So we still, in the flight plan catalog, only have the one flight plan. So we can come back over here to our active flight plan and we can save this one, copy flight plan. If we do that this time, now it says, you want to copy this flight plan into slot number 2? Yeah, sure, that sounds good. So now it brings us back over to the active flight plan, page 1. We come look into the flight plan, page 2. We're looking at the flight plan catalog. Now we've got 2 of them in here. So this is kind of convenient because you may find, as I do often, that the route that you take going toward a place is different than the route you might take on the way back. And you can accommodate for this with just saving a different flight plan. You might have one flight plan that's for a VFR routing, that maybe you get a different routing if you're flying VFR than if you're IFR, and you can store different flight plans. So let's take one of the, another option you have, by the way, is in this flight plan catalog, we can highlight the flight plan and then press menu. We get our context sensitive menu. And if you come down here and highlight invert and activate, then this will take that same flight plan and turn it around and then move it over to your active flight plan. So you might remember that we highlighted the Fullerton to Camarillo. When we did that invert and activate, it has activated a Camarillo to Fullerton. So the other way around. So that's another way to do that. And we still have our flight plan route here. Now you can modify these stored flight plans. If we just give ourselves a cursor, we highlight the flight plan we want to change, and then we press enter, we'll go into that flight plan, and now we can insert new waypoints. So let's say we want to insert the Los Angeles VOR in between here. So we just highlight the place that we want the new waypoint to go. So we want it to go after Fullerton, and you'll see here in just a moment, as soon as we start typing in the waypoint, Camarillo will move down to the 3rd slot, and we can type in our new waypoint that's in between. So we'll just start twisting here, the Los Angeles VOR, and you have to turn that knob a whole bunch of times. Here's the Los Angeles VOR, we'll press enter, and notice that. Now we've got Fullerton, Los Angeles, Camarillo, so we've modified this stored flight plan. And then if we want to get back out of that, we come back up to the flight plan catalog, just press the cursor, closes the cursor on the flight plan itself, moves you back into the catalog where you still have the cursor, and maybe you need to get rid of that cursor. So you just push the cursor button and it goes away again. So now if we want to investigate this flight plan again, just give ourselves the cursor, highlight on it, and see it still has that waypoint stored. So this is where this comes in handy is maybe the VFR flight to Camarillo, we're going to go over the top of the Los Angeles VOR, but on the way back, maybe we're going to go around the north side, and there's, let's look at how we do that now. Same idea. We highlight, come into the menu, we scroll down to where we want the new waypoint to be. There happens to be a fix just north of Fullerton Airport that I use quite often on this particular route. It's called Elmu. It's right by what used to be known as the El Monte Airport. Now it's called the San Gabriel Valley Airport. Happens to be a waypoint just about over that airport that allows you to avoid most of the airspace over the top of LAX. You sneak underneath the Bravo on the way. And so on the way back, this works out quite well for me, and this is how I usually will fly it. So I'll slip in this Elmu intersection before I go to Fullerton, make a big turn there and duck down below 4,000 feet to avoid the airspace, and away I go. So we come back into our catalog, and we've got our active flight plan here, which doesn't have any of those waypoints. So if we wanted to activate that one that we just put those waypoints on, again, we come over to page 2 where the flight plan catalog is. We get our cursor, we move that cursor down to the flight plan that we want to activate, press menu on it, we can activate this flight plan and press enter. And now we get the version of the flight plan with the waypoints in it. Now in this case, because we're already at Fullerton, it's chosen to activate that leg between Elmu and Fullerton, which isn't really what we want to do in this case. And if we were on the ground at Camarillo, it would have that first leg highlighted. It would really be what you want to do. So the next thing here is you can store these by a number, or you can sort this list of flight plans by number or by comment. So right now, this list happens to be sorted by the flight plan number. And if we want to sort by something else, we can get our menu button when we're looking at the flight plan catalog. We scroll down here to the sort list by comment, use that one instead. And now you'll see that they're out of order, but the comment is sorted alphabetically. So this is a convenient way to find if you've got several different flight plans, maybe they're scattered throughout your list that all leave from one airport. Maybe you've got Fullerton to Camarillo and a Fullerton to Palm Springs and a Fullerton to Catalina. So that you would see all the Fullertons together, and that might be one way to help find a flight plan for you. And then if you want to go back to sorting by number, very simple. You just press your menu button again. Your context sensitive menu comes up, and now it says sort list by number instead. You just press that and you get them sorted by number. Here's our message again. It's going to yak about this course that needs to be set. And we can close that button again. So let me just mention here that one of the common questions I've gotten several times emailed from attendees after the other webinars is about locked waypoints. You get a notice that pops up and it says the flight plan waypoint is locked or cannot navigate a locked flight plan. And this happens because you've created a flight plan that has a waypoint. You've used an intersection name that's on a chart somewhere, let's say, and you've then installed a new database. And the navigation database has been changed, and that waypoint is no longer current. Maybe it moved, or maybe it's deleted and replaced by something else. So the flight plan, as it's trying to figure out what it's going to help you with or which waypoint you mean, it can't because it doesn't know where this waypoint is anymore. So it gives you that warning notice. And the only way I know of that I've found to get rid of that is you have to go through each flight plan by hand, look for this needle in the haystack, and first you have to find the haystack, which route has the waypoint that's been deleted or modified, and find it and delete it or change it. There really is no way to have the navigator tell you which one it is, which flight plan it's in. So it's really kind of a pain, but this is the only way I know of to do it. So you'll end up having to go through each flight plan that has that, delete it, modify it, whatever, and then save it. Or the other thing you could do is delete all the flight plans and start again. So pick your poison. So that's the flight plan catalog. If you wanted to delete a flight plan, let's say we don't like this Camarillo to Fullerton, we're not going to go there anymore. You can delete an individual flight plan just by, again, press the menu button, bring up this menu. You can delete a flight plan. Delete flight plan number 2. Yep, that's the one we want to delete. And there it goes, all gone. And that's really all there is to it. You can delete all flight plans as well as if you like. And then if you wanted to create a new flight plan, you could either create it in the active, let me get back there. You can either create it on the active flight plan first and then save it, or you can come over here to the flight plan catalog and press menu and create a new flight plan and do it this way. So whichever one's easier for you. You could do this one, for instance, if you're in cruise, you're going to your destination and you want to get a little head start on the way back, and maybe you program the return route on your way out. So that's a case where you might want to use this. So what I'm going to try to do now is we'll get into this the flight plan transfer feature. Now, I think I've mentioned in some of the earlier programs, I have a FlightStream 210 installed in my airplane that coordinates with my Garmin 530 and my Garmin 345 transponder. And the FlightStream 210 sits in between there and handles communication between them. So what I'm going to start with here is I'll bring up a little video, and it's always a little bit awkward to try to do this. And I need to turn the sound on as we'll share this. And let me mirror this screen and bring it up. Takes a couple of seconds. So this is a video I shot in my airplane, and I've got several videos I'm going to show you here. This first one, I'm going to show you how to connect the ForeFlight on the iPad into the 345. And you'll see that some of the menus look a little bit different. And this one I have to narrate by hand myself because I didn't do a great job narrating on online when I was saving it. So I'm in the airplane. I've got all the navigators cranked up. My ForeFlight on my iPad is already running. I'm going to show you how to connect by Bluetooth through the flight stream into the 530 and then back in ForeFlight. Make sure this connection is valid. So let's see what happens here. Push the play button. So the first thing is I'm going to show you over in the aux menu over on the last page. You can see I'm flipping through the pages there. Let me pause it right here for just a moment. You'll notice if you think about the aux pages we've seen in the simulator so far, I have different page numbers and these pages are oriented differently than they are in that simulator. And this is a context sensitive way that the 530 connects. If you have different features, you have different ability to get into them. So right now you can see my aux chapter has 6 pages in it, and this is on page 5. This is where you see the Bluetooth status page. So if you highlight that Bluetooth status, we'll go in here and you can see these are all the connections that I have. One handy thing I found with one of my clients one day is he changed the Bluetooth name of his FlightStream 210 so that it had his tail number in there. I found that very convenient. I'd been flying with a whole bunch of pilots right then who all had FlightStream 210s. And if you don't put your tail number in there, you can't tell which is which. So you'll only see the active one when you go to connect, but I just thought that was a neat feature to change that name so that it had my tail number so that when I'm sitting in my airplane, I know which one it is. In the lower portion here in the paired devices, these are all the devices that are currently connected. So you can see I've got my iPhone connected here. Somebody has another tablet connected here. My partner's got a Galaxy tablet, a couple of those set up. And you can see that this filled in square indicates that the iPhone is currently connected into the 530, but you don't see my iPad yet. So let's see what happens here. So that's what you're looking for, is what's going on in that menu. I come back over to the iPad and I bring up the settings application and you look in Bluetooth. And once that flight stream comes up and you turn Bluetooth on the iPad, you're going to eventually see, sometimes it takes a little while, you're going to see that that N735CY show up. So just tap on that. We want to pair this device to the 530. So we get a message pops up on the 530. It's the same as the one on the iPad. You tap pair, you push enter over there. It allows the pair. And now you see it show up in the list. So now we've got Mike's Air down here. We got Mike's iPhone up here, which is also connected, and everything's good. And let me note here also, now I have 5 paired devices in the list. Near as I can tell, that's the maximum number you're allowed to have. So if you're not able to connect your device, it might be because you've exceeded the maximum. You have to come in here and delete one of these other devices. So in just a moment, once this pairing operation is complete, is it going to play for me? It's not going to play for me. Oh, the sharing stopped. Okay, here we go. Yeah, it's going to run us through all this again. I'm sorry about that. That's not the way it was supposed to work. So we go through this pairing operation just so you can see it again. We come back over here. What's it doing now? Okay, Bluetooth status, it's showing, it's starting again with the whole video. Oh, thank you very much. So we go over to settings. We're going to see it show up here. I wish there was a convenient way to skip forward on this. We get the device paired again. The name matches, that's the right one. You tap the pair, it's all good. It's coming together. And let me also note, it doesn't always work. I've had some difficulty with my airplane sometimes where it doesn't connect. So here we are. Now it's paired with the device, and now that square is filled in. It's now successfully connected to both. We're done with the connection. We can go back to the main menu. Now on the iPad, we can come back over to ForeFlight, and you'll see here in just a moment. We're going to go over to the More tab over on the right, and then click on Devices in this menu about halfway down that first little block, and you're going to see the Garmin Connect. That's the device that I'm connected to, and so this is just a way to double check that this connection is successful and everything's all good. Now you come back over to the main map, and you'll see now we're seeing airplanes that it's getting from the TIS-B system over the ADS-B network, and you probably saw connects there in the upper corner for just a moment. So that's how you establish the connection between your iPad and the airplane. The next one I want to show you, this one does have some audio. So let me, oops. This looks like we've lost our connection to the, okay, that's good. It's lost the mirroring connection here. Stand by, we're almost back. Here we go. Okay, the next one I'm going to show you is, what's it doing here? It's having a good old time. Okay, the next one is we're in the airplane, we've got the connection established, and I've got a flight plan on the iPad. You can see this from Fullerton. This is a more complete route, Fullerton to Seal Beach to Popper and so on. This one has a little audio in the narration. And if you look over on the screen of the 530 right now, you'll see that there is no route on it. There is no pink line or white lines indicating current and future segments. The 530 does not know about this route. So this one now is going to demonstrate how you transfer a flight plan from the ForeFlight into the 530. So take a look. So here's my setup in my airplane. I connected the iPad to the Garmin 345 transponder a little while ago through the FlightStream 210. That's also connected with my GNS 530 navigator. So I'm getting the data from the transponder onto the iPad, and we can tell that if we turn on the traffic overlay, we'll start seeing traffic on the map, and you can see in the upper left corner there, it says it's getting the data from Connect. Right now the connection is marginal because we're on the ground, and in fact you can see we only have one station that we're listening to at the moment, and its signal quality is low. But we are connected, we're getting some data, and that's what we want to see. Over on the 530, we pull up the active flight plan, we see that there's no waypoints in it. I have 3 pages of flight plans showing. Most of you will only have 2 if you don't have the Connect. So page 2 is our flight plan catalog that we've talked about earlier, and page 3 is the Connect flight plan import page. This is a new page that you have if you are connected with the 530 through the FlightStream 210 in my case. The 510 works the same. So come back to the flight plan. On the nav page you can see that there's no route in there. And so I'm going to take this route that we have programmed on the ForeFlight right now, and I'm going to send that over to the Garmin 530. And in order to do that, we pull up the flight plan tab, and we pick the Send To button down here at the bottom, and we're going to send it to the panel. Now, as soon as I do that, you see that the message light starts blinking on the 530. That's indicating we've got a message. Anytime we have that blinking light, we have to go see what the 530 is trying to tell us. And in this case, it says, Connect flight plan pending, so check the flight plan import page. So we just push the flight plan button. It starts over at the Connect flight plan import page now, and it says, hey, I've got a flight plan from Fullerton to Camarillo that just came in. What do you think about that? So we're going to give ourselves a cursor. It starts blinking on that flight plan. We press enter, and we're going to get this flight plan preview page. So you can see it's got Fullerton, Seal Beach, Popper, Santa Monica, and so forth. The same route that's on the iPad. So in this case, I'm going to choose to activate this flight plan. So now it takes us back to flight plan page 1, which is our active flight plan, and it's already activated the Fullerton to Seal Beach leg. So presto, you see here on the iPad the Fullerton to Seal Beach leg is magenta, and if we come back to the nav page 1 on the 530, it also has that magenta line from Fullerton over to Seal Beach. So it's imported our flight plan. That's great. That's such a time saver. It doesn't matter how you got the route in the ForeFlight, whether you used, in this case, I used a tech route, a tower en route control route to coast to Papa 24. If you load that flight plan in using Victor Airways, Jet Airways, Tango, Quebec Airways, whatever, it's going to load that entire flight plan automatically into your 530 for you. All right, now let's take a look at working with this flight plan in flight. For this one, oops, it's not going to play ball with me here. For this one, so we're back into the airplane. I'm going to show you what happens if ATC offers you some different routing, some vectors onto different parts of the route a little bit. And this first little one is going direct to a waypoint further down the line, and let's see what happens, how we choose to activate this. So now let's look what happens when we're flying this. We're just going to simulate being in the air for now. If we got another message it's trying to tell us, set course to 204, it'll always do that. Right now I'm just going to ignore that. So suppose we take off and air traffic control clears us direct to the Popper intersection. It's not unusual at all to get a clearance like that. So we're going to do that on the 530, and we'll see that this route is going to transfer over to the iPad for us. So push the cursor button, scroll the big knob down there to Popper. That's the fix we want to go to. Press direct. It says, do you want to go direct to that Popper waypoint? Does that look good? Yep, looks good to me. That's the one I want to go to. We'll press activate, and boom, it shows up a direct pink line now to the Popper intersection. Now, if we look over here on the iPad, it says, hey, we just got a new route from the panel. Do we want to load that? So this is your 530 transferring this route directly into the iPad for you, so you don't have to change anything on the iPad. So we can either ignore it or we want to load it. And in this case, let's load it. And you'll see that the route now changes on the ForeFlight on the iPad with that pink line directly to Popper. So now the two units agree. Beautiful. How's that for a slick feature? Boy, this is why I always keep my iPad connected to the onboard installed equipment so that they always agree. Now, there's a good argument for leaving your iPad connected to an external GPS or AHARS unit. Let's say your onboard electrical system fails and your portable, your battery-powered GPS is what you've got working for you. That's fine. I figure I can switch over pretty quickly. But for the lion's share of my operation, I leave my ForeFlight on my iPad connected into my 530 using that flight stream. So now let's take a look at what happens when we activate a leg, the same sort of idea. So next, let's take a look at activating a leg. Let's say air traffic control gives us a vector heading to intercept that airway between Popper and the Santa Monica VOR. So we press the flight plan to get our flight plan. Push the cursor button. We're going to scroll down to that Santa Monica VOR. That's the fix that anchors the leg we want to intercept. We press menu, and we want to activate that leg. So do we want to fly that leg from Popper to Santa Monica? Does that look good to you? Yep, looks good to me. So now you can see that pink line directly ahead of us, and look at that. This time we got a new flight plan loaded from panel, and it automatically activated that in the ForeFlight. It only asks you if you want to load it the first time. Anytime after that, it's going to continue to automatically load them. It's going to assume that since you did it that first time, you always want to do it here. So this is a great way to keep your iPad and your onboard certified navigator all synchronized all the way through your flight. Easy peasy. So that is some video out of my airplane. It's the only way I could find to do this. This Garmin simulator will not demonstrate those features, a little bit unfortunately. So I have to do them in the airplane, and I can't do it live. Yeah, who knows? It might come out a little bit better that way. So that's all I've got for tonight. I thank you very much for coming. And there will be future programs coming up very soon. Let me share the screens here. So please go to my YouTube channel and find these videos. You probably already found this particular extra section through that. Share that YouTube channel with other people you think might be able to use it. And hopefully everybody can get a little something out of it. If you have questions for me about the Garmin or the series, any aspect of this, the interface between the ForeFlight on the iPad, please send me an email. There's my email for it. Send me an email, and I do answer these questions as much as I can, and I try to help people out along the way. If you have any interest in any of the other resources, links to the previous programs, there's a link on this website to the Garmin simulator. There are a few different versions of it on the Garmin website, and you really need the latest one. The earlier one only runs on Windows 7. The later version will run on later versions of Windows, and I think it has a few extra features in it as well. And then if you like what you're seeing here, if you've learned something and want to encourage Brian and me to continue this series, send us a contribution if you feel like it. You know, shake out your ashtrays out of your car, go through the cushions on the couch downstairs. Send us a couple of bucks here and there, and Brian and I will keep doing this. So for now, that's all I've got for tonight. I thank you very much for joining me, and we'll see you as soon as Brian and I can coordinate our schedules and get back together again. Thanks a lot. Good night.